All right, welcome to another edition of the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. I have the lovely Samantha Walsh in here today. Say hi, Samantha.
Hello.
So, tell you a little bit about Samantha first. Samantha is from the Colorado Hemp Association. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. And she is the premier hemp lobbyist for Colorado.
Yes.
Now, we also have another guest who's going to be joining us a little later, Erik Hunter, who's the Director of Research and Development for Hemp Cleans, another great hemp organization in Colorado that you are part of as well.
Yes.
But tell me a little bit about how you first got involved in the hemp world.
In the hemp world. How did I first get involved in the hemp world? That's a great question. It started, my background was in politics, and I worked in the Colorado State Legislature for, a few years, and took a break because really I was looking for something that I found passion in.
Sure. What did you focus on before when you were
I worked in the Senate, and I worked for the current Senate president, Senator John Morse.
Right.
And, and I wanted to do something that I just felt I wanted to make a difference. And I knew I wanted to lobby on something. I just wanted to lobby on something I felt was an important issue.
Something that mattered to you.
Something that mattered. Something that was going to save the world.
Right.
And I met Adam Dunn when he had moved into Colorado. At first, I was still working in politics.
Adam Dunn from Hoodlam.
From Hoodlam, yes. For people who don't know, Adam Dunn from Hoodlam. And, I started working with the Hoodlam people, and then I said, wow, hemp. And then, I saw that, Amendment 64 was going to pass, and we were really excited about that. And, I approached Jason Love, who has been a big advocate in the hemp industry.
Huge advocate. He's one of our favorite guests to have on the show.
And I said, hey, Jason, I've got a proposition for you. I told him that I understood politics. As someone once put it, I know all the back doors. And I really wanted to help hemp succeed as an industry. My biggest concern is I wanted to, and I still want, to, one, have this legislated smartly. So people can thrive in this industry and not be regulated out of business like what happened with marijuana and is continuing to happen with marijuana. So, that was my big drive. I want to see this succeed. I've read so much about it. I'm sure anyone who has a Facebook page or has access to the internet has come across something somewhere, some kind of meme about hemp and how it's going to save the world. And I looked into it, and wow, it wasn't just one of those crazy internet fads. It's true.
Yeah, it really is. So when did your journey for hemp start then? It was just last year or two?
It started, probably, about a year ago. Okay. I started really working with Adam and Cece at Hood Lab. Really just kind of helping them get, their business started here and really thriving in Colorado. And my passion was always still in politics. And I was just kind of waiting for the right opportunity. To me, it just seemed perfect. I'm like, oh, wow, my passion in politics. I have this brand newfound passion for hemp. And I found a way to be able to merge the two. I suppose you could call it fortuitous.
Awesome. Yeah, it is. Well, we just had our other guest, Erik Hunter, join us. Welcome, Erik.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good to have you on. Is this mic on? Okay. So as I said before, Erik is Director of Research and Development for Hemp Cleans, correct?
That is true.
And I always ask everybody this question. I already asked Samantha this question. How did you get involved in hemp advocacy, and when did that start for you?
Started about 2 years ago when I was inspired by the Holder memo, where we had a proliferation of dispensaries, and I thought, well, the cat's out of the bag now. Why not just have hemp agriculture? Because no longer can anyone say, well, the police are going to mistake it for marijuana, or this is going to lead to the legalization of marijuana. And so I saw Linda's website, New Ag Hemp Economy.
Linda Parker.
Yes, Linda Parker, newaghempeconomy.com, and contacted her, and we met. And it was about 3 or 4 months later, she introduced me to Jason, and they asked me to testify on behalf of the hemp bill which was 12/10/99, and I did so, and it went really well, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and that's one of the things a lot of people in Colorado don't know. And I've said this on the show many times. 1099 legalized, the research and development of hemp for phytoremediation in Colorado before 64 did.
That's correct.
And a lot of people didn't realize it was already legal for, 6 months almost beforehand? Just about 6 months.
Yes.
It was in June, I believe it was.
Hickenlooper signed it in June.
Yep. And that was a big deal. It was a really big deal to start saying, okay, now we can start, studying what hemp can do to help clean the soil and, take the radiation out of the soil. But the nice thing about the way that bill was written, in my understanding of it, is that it kind of opens up a lot more R&D than just that one narrow confine of it.
That's right, because it's not just about removing toxic metals or hydrocarbons from the soil. It is about utilizing areas which currently do not support any sort of agriculture because there may be too much salt in the soil, sodium, for example, or maybe that there's a buildup of agricultural pollution such as Roundup at the borders of fields. And not only can it remove pollution from the soil, it can prevent pollution from reaching waterways. So if you plant hemp around the border of a field, it may keep runoff from contaminating the water supply, which is the number one concern of farmers in Colorado.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and I think that's a really great point that you make. I think my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, is it can also help farmers who want to get to that organic rating a little bit faster. I mean, I know there's supposed to be like a certain year period of time of not using pesticides before 3 years, right?
Yes.
Now, is it just a standard 3 years, or will they look at it and say, well, wait a minute, the soil's actually already at that point, even though it's faster than 3 years because they utilize hemp? Is that a possibility?
It's possible that 3 years of no use at all would get to that organic standard.
I think that's a change. That's something regulated currently under USDA, and in order to facilitate that change, there would have to be research, apparently, done, which is one of the things that we're, fueling with this new bill. Is we're expanding the research and development aspect with hemp. However, the nice thing is that within that 3-year gap, where a farmer usually has to leave a field fallow, no pesticides,
Yes.
no herbicides, no fertilizer, or anything like that, the possibility remains that they could at least grow hemp because hemp doesn't need herbicides or pesticides or anything like that to thrive. And in the meantime, they could, heal the soil faster. And when they do grow something, it would actually produce a greater yield. We've found that when you grow hemp as a rotating crop, it produces a greater yield for your next crop. I think by 20% usually.
Depends on the crop.
It depends on the crop, yeah. Now, what is the most common crop grown right now in Colorado? Is it wheat or?
It's got to be corn.
Corn? Is it corn? Okay. Yeah, I guess you're right. Now that I think about it, I mean, I know in Pueblo, huge cornfields are down in that area. Now, how does it work in rotating with corn? Is it help? I mean, you said it increases yield. Does it do a big difference for corn as well?
I haven't seen anything specific to corn, only numbers from wheat farming.
Sure.
But there's no reason to think that if it wasn't a good rotational crop for wheat, it wouldn't work for corn as well.
Right.
And one of the things it does, it breaks up the pest and disease cycle. So there are pests and diseases that are specific for corn or wheat or cotton, and if you plant something else there, then it essentially starves them off.
Right.
And it's important to have something in the ground to prevent wind erosion if you have a really dry year. That's why we had a dust bowl in the 1930s, is because the farmers tilled a lot and there was nothing in the ground to prevent
we're approaching that again. I mean, that's one of the things Jason Love wrote about in a couple issues ago in our magazine, is that the current conditions that we're in Colorado with the droughts that we have is we could be approaching another dust bowl. I mean, I'm sure we're able to mitigate it a little bit better nowadays than we were back in the 30s, but it's still, I mean, it's a big concern. So hemp could definitely help something like that as well, correct?
Absolutely. And talking with Gail Schwartz, it's become apparent that the drought situation is serious enough that Gail says we're running out of colors for the drought map. You know, we don't have a more severe color than the dark red that we have now, so we have to start really focusing on something that is really viable to prevent this type of erosion, and also to continue the cycle of returning nitrogen to the ground, because one of the things that hemp does, especially when it's grown for seed, is the leaves fall off before harvest. And so that's a self-mulching crop, which is something that other crops don't always do.
Right.
And I know that the next study that Erik's looking into is how hemp heals soil that's been damaged from fire to the point that it won't grow anything. Usually when you have a wildfire, that's nature's natural way of kind of cleansing, and things usually grow back healthier because of, it becomes very nitrogen rich after a fire. But lately we found, because of the droughts and because of the lack of water, that these wildfires that we've seen over the last few years in Colorado have burned so hot that nothing's growing back in the soil.
Now, is that just evaporating the nitrogen in the air because it's so hot, or is it just that it's been dry for so long that these plants aren't producing nitrogen, so it doesn't have anything to go down into the soil?
Well, we haven't looked at specifically the chemical composition of these fire-scorched soils, but we have collected samples, and we're going to do this study outdoors. We don't want to bring this dirty soil into the lab and possibly introduce some sort of pests or diseases into the lab. So it's still a couple months out, so we'll have to determine exactly what's wrong with the soil, for lack of a better term.
Okay. Now, when do you think, when you say it's a couple months out, are you talking about planting hemp seeds a couple months out, or are you talking about just studying the soil itself?
I would say both.
Both, really?
One of the things we're concentrating on is building up a seed supply in Colorado, because at the present time, we can't bring in tractor trailers full of seed because we'll get stopped at the border for not being sterilized.
Right.
So we don't actually provide seed, but seeds tend to happen, as they did with the medical marijuana industry.
Sure.
And once the seeds do happen, then we'll see possibly a 500-fold increase in the seed supply every year, because you plant one seed, you get at least 500 off a fairly good-sized plant.
Okay, so we're not, that was one of the things people ask me on a regular basis, and I can't really answer that question, but I kind of give my best guess scenario, well, when is hemp production going to be amped up so that we can really see a difference in Colorado? I'm guessing 5 to 10 years.
I think 10 years, maybe. Well, if you're talking about the number of acres, we could be up to a sizable number of acres in 2 or 3 years. If you're talking about an industry that would support, say, textile production, that probably is 10 years out.
Right.
Because a textile mill is a $20 million investment, and nobody's going to put that kind of money into a plant unless we have a good supply of fiber hemp.
What about a paper mill? I want my magazine printed on hemp.
That would be nice too, but again, you're talking about a sizable investment. Things that we can do now, we can run the stalk through a machine called a decorticator, and if you've ever seen Hemp for Victory, there's a really good shot of this machine with the rollers that separate the interior part of the hemp stalk, which is called the hurd, from the exterior part of the hemp stalk, which is called the bast, or bark, essentially. And that interior hurd can be used for animal bedding, and also you could chop up the stalk and make hempcrete, which is a concrete type product with more strength and less weight than typical cinder block. And also, it's relatively simple to utilize the seeds for hemp seed oil production, which is the most nutritious type of vegetable oil there is. And we already have expeller presses in the state of Colorado for use with other types of seed crops. And an expeller press is about $20,000 to purchase and set up. So it's a minimal investment, and it will attract a lot of investors once we start production, because there is such a huge pent-up demand for American-grown hemp at this point. We have several companies that currently import their product from Canada that have said that they would love to support local agriculture.
Well, now, and you bring up another question. I think we have to go to a break very soon, so we do have to go to a break. When we get back, I want to ask you, both of you, what kind of crop are we looking at focusing on? Because I know in Canada they focus on the hemp seed oil as a food product more than anything else. And then we have Europe, which seems to focus more on the construction industry. And then, of course, we have China, which focuses on the textile industry. Now, I've just heard recently that Australia is working on plastics. So are we looking to try to incorporate a little bit of everything, or are we going to be focusing more on one? I mean, what seems to be viable from what you guys have seen now? And I know I'm not going to hold you to it. It could change at any time. So we'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. This next segment is brought to you by one of our favorite sponsors, River Rock Wellness. We'll be back in just a moment.
Tired of dispensary hopping? Trying to find quality meds? Look no further and get to know Greenworks. Our shops are stocked with over 20 strains of organically grown meds, including R4, the highest tested CBD strain in Colorado. Yes, we back up our quality with testing. While Greenworks offers only the highest quality meds, we don't believe in high prices, with eighths ranging from $20 to $40 and ounces capped at $175. With 2 centers in Denver and 1 in Glenwood Springs, we're likely closer than you think. Call 303-647-5210 to find the location nearest you. Independent Records and Videos has been your locally owned and operated choice for music, movies, and lifestyle accessories since 1978. Independent Records and Videos has 7 locations from Denver to Colorado Springs to Pueblo to serve your entertainment needs. Whether it's vinyl, CDs, DVDs, books, smoking accessories, or hundreds of other fun and fanciful items, Independent is ready and waiting to make your dreams come true. We are always buying, selling, and trading vinyl, CDs, books, and DVDs, so sell yours and buy ours. Independent Records and Videos, your entertainment headquarters. Check us out at beindependent.com or on Facebook.
The Hemp Connoisseur is Colorado's premier guide to hemp culture. Our mission is to elevate the image of the medical cannabis and hemp industries to create widespread acceptance of the cannabis sativa plant. You can find the latest issue of the Hemp Connoisseur at more than 200 7-Elevens, your favorite dispensary, MMJ doctor offices, and tattered covered bookstores. Do you consider yourself a cannabis connoisseur? Then come be a part of the Hemp Connoisseur's first Cannabis Championship. Visit us at thcmag.com for info on how to sample the best medicine Colorado has to offer. River Rock Wellness, located at 4935 York Street and on the corner of 6th and Kalamath, right next to Lamar's Donuts at 990 West 6th Avenue, offers in-house award-winning organic medical cannabis flowers, concentrates, tinctures, topicals, edibles, and raw superfoods for all patients. Prices range from $160 $40 an ounce, with member and non-member benefits, including caregiver, SSI, SSDI, vets, travelers, and sponsored programs. Brands you trust like Healthy Creations, Rare Dankness, Rock Butter, Priva, Token Daily, and more. Become a River Rock patient or renew with us today and receive a $100 ounce of choice. Offer good through April 20th, 2013. All right, we are back with Erik Hunter, a Director of Research and Development for Hemp Cleans, and Samantha Walsh from the Colorado Hemp Association. I mean, you guys are two of really the two central players in the hemp industry now in Colorado. I mean, am I safe in saying that without you guys getting too big of a head?
Well, we don't have a monopoly on the hemp market, but we're working really hard because we believe in it. That's why we're doing it.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, I before the break, I did say I wanted to pose a question to you guys. I can't believe I remembered the question. So, again, just to reiterate for our listeners who may be just joining us, right now, I mentioned Canada kind of focuses on the hemp seed oil as a nutrient and as a great food source. And then we have Europe, which seems to be focusing more on the construction industry with the hemp herds and other things like that, and making hempcrete. And then we have China focusing on the textiles. And again, I've heard Australia is working on the plastic side. What are we looking at here in Colorado? Are we trying to incorporate a little bit of everything, or are we looking at the fact that the region we're in is only going to support certain types of hemp plants?
Well, initially, what we're looking at is Colorado as a seed developer, and nobody knows exactly what's going to happen with the other states or the federal government, but it's looking like when you have one of the most influential Republicans, Mitch McConnell,
Yes,
saying
Kansas.
that we need to drop this ban. I don't really know how long the feds can keep it up and say, "Oh, it's marijuana."
Well, there's got to be a point. I don't mean to interrupt you. There's got to be a point when they say we're going to separate this from the Controlled Substances Act. I mean, does that something you foresee happening soon?
Right. So the question is, Colorado is really not ideally suited for hemp production in that we're having trouble with our water resources.
Right.
And places like Kentucky have 30, 40 inches of rain a year, which means they don't have to irrigate. So eventually they might be able to be more competitive as far as hemp agriculture. But what we're looking at now is developing a genetics program in Colorado. And when the other states do come online, and I have a feeling it's a question of when and not if, we will be a seed provider. And when you're growing seed, you can use relatively small plots and low water use, and you have a high value per acre. And so we're looking at Colorado as the cradle, if you will, of this new industry, and we hope to maintain that status even after the other states legalize it.
So we're going to be like the first seed bank of hemp in the United States, basically.
That's what we're hoping.
Yeah, potentially. And it makes sense because our ag school, or state ag school, CSU, is the seed bank for, agriculture. They have most of the seeds they control most of the seeds for agriculture crops and research and development. So it would just make sense that it starts here in Colorado.
Now, are you both, I know you as a lobbyist are going to be working on this, and I'm not sure if you're working on this in your scope of body of work, Eric, but are we working on the regulations as far as GMOs go when it comes to hemp seeds? Are we trying to, I've heard talk about people doing this, but, I'd rather talk to people that are going to be lobbying for us. Are we going to try to keep companies like Monsanto out from messing with the hemp seed?
Go ahead.
Nobody wants to jump on that one.
Of course, yeah. No. That's the goal. As of right now, we're doing very minimal regulation because we don't want to put a stranglehold on the industry. We want to allow it to be able to grow, forgive the pun, and flourish on its own.
Of course.
And of course, the best way to my opinion, to keep Monsanto out was to keep any kind of vertical integration out of, hemp production.
Okay. That's a good point. Okay.
And I believe in classic free market economics.
Right.
And I don't know how you could legislate them out of the business. And one of the big unknowns is, and I'm sure there's someone at Monsanto with a spreadsheet right now working on this. So, once you get the spreadsheet up, just give me a call, guys. But they typically will sell a pesticide product to go with their seeds. For example, they have Roundup Ready corn, and you use Roundup, and Roundup kills everything but this genetically modified product that can deal with high levels of this particular pesticide. Now, because hemp doesn't need pesticides, are they interested in hemp at all? We don't know. And so I think at this point to try and legislate them out of the market would be foolhardy because we don't even know if they're interested in the market.
Interesting. I see. That's a point I've never heard on that side. That's a very interesting point.
And hemp is going to have to start off like very small scale, so it's going to be grown by small scale farmers.
Sure.
And Monsanto is a huge agribusiness,
Right.
And they're more interested in giant commercial production, and that's years away.
Right.
And I don't think, I'm sure they've got their eye on it. I'm sure that they've done the numbers, but at this point, it's going to have to start off small, and that kind of control is going to be in more the independent farmer's hands.
Right.
So I don't really see that threat coming, if people see that as a threat, for a while.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, and right now the federal government is a bigger threat than Monsanto.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. That's a very good point. They're still saying that they might come down on hemp farmers. I've heard this is not big central people in the government, but I've heard a few people say, within there, and rumors floating around saying, well, we're not like all for it. You're shaking your head. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are that federally right now, they have, the sequester kind of messes with things. That's going to cut a huge chunk of money out of the Department of Justice's budget.
Is that part of what's being cut? Is the Department of Justice? Okay.
Yep.
$421 million will be cut from the DEA and the Department of Defense drug interdiction program, and so they're going to have to prioritize. I mean, the feds have had this really unlimited budget ever since Reagan said, we're going to double the budget on everything, and they've run it into the ground, and so now they're going to have to ask themselves, does it actually make sense to try and kill jobs and tax revenue because of this ancient superstition that somehow this plant is going to hurt somebody?
Right. But on the flip side of the coin on that, though, doesn't the DEA gets paid for eradicating cannabis plants, which a lot of times can be hemp. In fact, it seems like the majority of the plants that they eradicate every year was hemp, at least for a time period.
Yeah.
So
actually, we don't have any data to back that up anymore because mysteriously in 2006, once they got called out on that, if you look at the research into this, the DEA would always submit a report called the Cannabis Suppression. Part of their cannabis suppression program. And in this report, it would, they'd list how many plants they eradicated, indoor versus outdoor. The numbers would always be somewhere upwards of 200 million outdoor plants, 98 to 99% of which would be ditchweed, which is nothing but hemp growing wild, left over from the 1930s, just kind of growing on its own. And they'd come in and they'd burn the fields and they drew a lot of criticism. They got audited.
And this is the stuff.
There's a picture right there.
There's a picture right there.
Yep.
And the funny thing is that the criticism was not in the reporting of the ditchweed. The criticism was in wasting taxpayers' dollars to burn plants in fields that had no psychoactive properties, that were just essentially ditchweed. It's ditchweed. It's weeds.
Right. Well, and I think the number I heard in 2005, because it's funny you say 2006, 2005 was the last recorded time I've heard about this, was about $1.05 per plant.
Something like that. And so, they had a budget of, the estimate was about just that one section. I mean, the DEA overall has a budget of about $1 billion.
$2 billion.
$2 billion, $1.8 billion. And over $1 billion of that is relegated just to the DEA, which is insane to me. And so the estimate is that $200 million goes into the cannabis suppression program. But now we have no way of knowing because they now leave that data out. And coincidentally, I think the last report I saw in 2011 or 2012, it went down from 200 million outdoor ditchweed to now 10 million plants that they now categorize as outdoor cultivated grows, which 10 million from 200 million is a huge drop.
That is a huge drop.
And 60% of that comes out of California.
Wow.
Right. And a lot of the ditchweed plants are eradicated by local sheriff's departments. The DEA doesn't have enough personnel to go out and get every last ditchweed plant in Ohio and Kentucky. So what we're looking at is a cut in the DEA budget means less money available to give to the sheriff's departments. So like I said, they're going to have to prioritize, and the sheriffs are going to have to think about actually going after rapists and robbers instead of out in some farmer's
actually
field.
doing their jobs.
Yeah.
Great. That it's fascinating. I'm actually reading a book that we're going to be reviewing by Chris Conrad. Are you familiar with Chris Conrad?
Yes.
He wrote a book called Hemp Lifeline to the Future. We're doing a review of it in the next issue. And one of the things he writes in the beginning is imagining a world that fully incorporates hemp. And it's kind of this hemptopia, and it's a little bit like, wow, that's amazing and cool, but like it's really taking it all the way to the ultimate level, which would be great. And one of those statements in there was, well, it's great because crime is at an all-time low because the police are actually focusing on violent crime and doing all these other things. And the budgets have gone down immensely just because they're not focusing on all these other things.
Well, and another great thing about that book is where he goes into the Partnership for Drug-Free America and how they're funded by the alcohol and tobacco lobby.
Yes.
And he pretty much rips apart this whole scenario and brings it down to greed and money and just ignorance.
Well, it does. It all kind of comes down to greed, money. I mean, everything boils down to money. That's one of the things I tell all of my writers when they're looking for, follow the money, and you'll find the answers. You'll always find the answers if you follow the money. which would bring me to a whole other philosophical conversation about a resource-based economy, which I've been starting to study a little bit about. And every time I read the resource-based economy thoughts, I'm always thinking, okay, hemp is part of that. Hemp is totally part of that. Do you guys understand? Do you know what I'm talking? Have you heard of what I'm talking about? The resource-based economies.
Just bring me up to speed.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
it's a long conversation, but the basic idea of it behind it, and again, this is very utopian in a way, is we eliminate all money. And this is not a socialist idea. This is not a communist idea, because the idea behind communism and all those things still talk about the fact that we have unlimited resources and in which to act. And this is saying, no, we don't have unlimited resources. A resource-based economy would mean we shift our resources to where they need to go, but we keep very close track of them. And people wouldn't have to work for money anymore, because our resources as far as food and transportation, if we used something like this, we would build the transportation we needed so people didn't need cars. And, the best way to look at it is, I guess, check out a website called Zeitgeist Movement. There's 3 documentaries called Zeitgeist.
I'm going to Google it right now.
Yeah, Zeitgeist, and then there's Zeitgeist Addendum, and then there's Zeitgeist Forward. And it was glad they came out with Forward, because I watched the first 2 movies and was like, okay, I get it. You're pointing out all the problems. Well, what the hell are we supposed to do about it? Mm-hmm. And that's what the Zeitgeist Forward starts going into and explaining more about the resource-based economy. Still fascinating. I still haven't fully grasped how it would work. And really, there's no way something like that's going to work, because the people in power are in power because of money. And who's going to give up that money? The only way to do it would be a mass revolution of everybody across the planet.
Man, you're putting us on every government radar right now.
Well, no, I know, right? Well, Zeitgeist is already there, but it's just something I recommend people check out. But it's one of those things, like they show this great dramatic footage at the end of the movie where there's piles and piles of cash, and all the people are throwing all of their cash because they take all of their money out of the banks and burn it all. And I'm sitting there going, that sounds really cool if everybody did it, but who's going to do it? Who's going to, I'm trusting everybody. I'm going to spend $100,000 in my savings or whatever, all my money, and throw it in this pile, and then I have nothing left.
I would buy gold is what I would do before that happened.
Absolutely. You buy some gold first. Exactly. That's always a good idea anyway, financially. Well, we have to take a break. And we will be back in just a moment to talk a little bit more with Erik Hunter and Samantha Walsh. And once again, this segment is going to be brought to you by River Rock Wellness. River Rock Wellness, located at 4935 York Street and on the corner of 6th and Calumet, right next to Lamar's Donuts at 990 West 6th Avenue, offers in-house award-winning organic medical cannabis flowers, concentrates, tinctures, topicals, edibles, and raw superfoods for all patients. Prices range from $160 to $240 an ounce, with member and non-member benefits including caregiver, SSI, SSDI, vets, travelers, and sponsored programs, brands you trust like Healthy Creations, Rare Dankness, Rock Butter, Priva, Token Daily, and more. Become a River Rock patient or renew with us today and receive a $100 ounce of choice. Offer good through April 20th, 2013.
The chocolatiers at Incredibles are dedicated to crafting the finest chocolate from high-quality ingredients to ensure the greatest possible medicated edibles in the world. Consistency and quality are top priority. Lab testing on each and every batch. Rick and Josh have been making non-medicated chocolates for years for such retail outlets as Whole Foods and Vitamin Cottage. Today, we are focused on crafting our award-winning medicated Incredible chocolate bars. We are professional bakers, and we believe food should be made from scratch. We guarantee your satisfaction. Have an incredible day.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
And we're back. Thanks for joining us today. Again, we have Samantha Walsh from Colorado Hemp Association, Erik Hunter, Director of Research and Development for Hemp Cleans. So, we're, second half of the program now. Let's talk about the future. What's next for you guys? What are you working on right now? I know we're working on 1099 and the research and development of that. On the lobbying side of it, what are you focusing on right now, Sam?
So I'm working with Senator Schwartz and Senator Crowder. And in the House, we're working with Representative Korm and Representative Fisher. And we are working on an industrial hemp regulation bill that will allow for the growth, cultivation, and sale of hemp as per Amendment 64 directs. And essentially what we're going to do is create a registration system for farmers to register as hemp growers. And once they register as a hemp grower, we're setting up a system where they'll reach out with process. It's going to be pretty simple. It's going to be, sorry.
That was going to be my question, actually,
Yeah.
is how difficult it's going to be for a farmer to get involved with the hemp process.
I mean, really, it's going to be pretty simple. Well, obviously, we're going to try and avoid a lot of the pitfalls of Canada, and we don't want to overproduce. But I don't think that's going to be a problem. I really see Colorado as being very measured about how we're going about this. And we just want to start off slow, get our feet under the ground, but it should be relatively simple for farmers. We're offering protections. We're making sure it's transparent enough that law enforcement won't have an issue with the legislation. And we're going to make sure that this is relegated where it should be relegated, which is underneath the Department of Agriculture.
Sure.
I mean, this is a crop. This is
crop.
not a drug. This is a crop.
Now, I want to back up. You said you were offering protections.
Yes.
What kind of protections are you offering for a farmer who wants to grow hemp?
Well, the biggest concerns that you would get from an opposition is, like law enforcement, is going to be, we need to know where these fields are.
Right.
So when you register as a hemp farmer, you give location of where you're going to be farming, GPS coordinates, where on your farmland your plot will be, and we're going to offer. There will be testing, so you have to guarantee that you're growing a certified cultivar, that it is industrial hemp. And, we think that's going to offer enough protection that there won't be any kind of interference from the DEA. Of course, their biggest concern is the same one that they parrot all the time, which is, you're going to hide marijuana in hemp fields. Which
The dumbest concern
ever. I mean, first of all, marijuana is legal in Colorado. So if anyone feels like they're going to be hiding marijuana in a hemp field, I don't know why they would, but if they want to... you're going to have huge issues with cross-pollination.
Huge issues. You're going to destroy both crops.
Yeah, we destroy both crops. Yes, because in theory, a farmer is going to be farming for hemp, the seed, and oil.
Right.
And if the cross-pollinates, it's going to degrade the quality of the hemp seed and oil in the hemp, and then it's going to degrade the THC value in the marijuana. Mm-hmm. Now, their rebuttal to this argument is that it's only a problem in second generation crops. It's not a problem in first generation crops. We've seen this argument brought up in Kentucky, and they I know you're trying to stifle laughter. They're bringing it up now. So Erik and I created a very logical answer to that, which is it will still seed the marijuana, which you don't want. I mean, you don't, as Erik put it, you don't really see the Westward advertising for seeded marijuana.
No, you don't.
And this isn't the 1970s. You don't buy marijuana with seeds.
Yeah, you don't want to snap, crackle, and pop when you're smoking your marijuana. It's the old wives' tale was every time a seed popped for guys, it was like, oh, you just went sterile. And it was like that was I don't know where that one came from, but I remember that one, and But no, I think it's hilarious that they would say that, because think about it, drug dealers, illegal drug dealers, are still business people.
Yes.
It's an illegitimate business, but they're business people.
Yeah.
And none of them would want to just have a first crop in the crop that they're planting and landing. I mean,
and then have to replant in a new different location.
Imagine the work that would be involved. It makes absolutely no sense.
Especially, and these are going to be grown outdoors. Mm-hmm. So why would you invite that kind of? And if the farmers are going to be registered with the Department of Agriculture with GPS locations, why would you invite that? And they're going to be tested. Yeah. Why would you invite that kind of scrutiny onto yourself if you're doing something illicit and illegal? I don't know. It makes no sense to me. Of course, we see things happen with dumb criminals all the time, but
this hasn't happened anywhere else in the world.
No, there's 30 other countries in the world that can tell the difference between marijuana and hemp. I don't understand why we have so little faith in the United States that our law enforcement is incompetent or something and won't be able to tell the difference.
But the funny thing about that is it's our law enforcement saying that, and I always feel like it needs to be turned right around and saying, are you telling us you're incompetent?
Are you saying you're the 30th best law enforcement industry in the world, right?
Exactly. I mean, you're saying that you're better than the Mounties? Because they can tell the difference.
Right.
I mean... the arguments always crack me up, and obviously intelligent, logical thinking people look at those arguments, whether research based or not, and they go, "Wow, this is just stupid," and it's just they're trying to distract people, they're trying to scare. What about the kids? I'm waiting for that one on the hemp side. What about the kids? Because that's always brought up and there's like a scare jerk reaction.
I think.
Hemp diapers, exactly.
They do actually have hemp diapers.
They do. We talked about that at last show, I think, this summer.
I think the other concern you're going to have is people people worry about maybe molestation of crops. Like, oh, you see a bunch of rogue teenagers are driving out around Ray, Colorado, and they see a big marijuana field that happens to be hemp. And so what? They go sneak a plant, they smoke it, they get the world's worst headache, and then they realize that what they did was really dumb.
But what are they going to smoke? There's not going to be any flower.
Exactly. And
They're going to just smoke leaves?
And
I know people who have tried it. And
Of course.
it doesn't work.
yeah.
No,
and
no, it
so,
doesn't.
of course, there's anecdotal evidence across other countries once they first started their hemp growing programs. That, of course, there was like 1 or 2 stories of this happening because teenagers are stupid. We
They
were all
are.
teenagers
We
once.
were
We
all
all know how
stupid at one
dumb
point.
we were. And they're going to try it, and then they're going to learn their lesson.
Exactly. So let them, and my thought is like, go ahead, smoke it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that old deal when you're, the old story, or you hear parents say, oh, I caught you smoking a cigarette. Now you're going to smoke this entire pack, one after the other. And you're going to learn your lesson the hard way. It's like, go ahead. You know what? Go ahead and smoke this plant. Enjoy
it
that
out.
headache and that sickness that you're going to get from it.
And at least you won't get lung cancer from hemp, right?
Exactly. You won't be able to smoke enough of it to do it because you won't feel very good. I think that now the next question on the farmer side is how many farmers are lining up right now in Colorado to do this?
About 15.
About 15. And how much acreage are we looking at between those 15?
Very small acreage. Like I said, we can't import legally a tractor trailer full of seed from Canada.
Right.
So, the seeds just appear and it's there.
We don't know how it got. It's like David Copperfield just, here's your seeds.
Of course,
Yeah,
it's starting out on a very small scale.
Right.
We're starting off with a lot of this is probably going to be is going to start with research and development, and so it's going to be done under the Industrial Hemp Research Committee that we're creating in the bill, which is going to be essentially a holdover from the previous committee that was created under the phytoremediation pilot program. And and so we're basically in that part. We're going to allow research to be expanded to be able to study how the crop grows in Colorado, to be able to provide research and data points to, for example, the biggest one we're looking at is insurance companies, private insurance companies, because farmers aren't going to be able to receive the federal crop insurance that they get with any other crop that they grow. Until federal law changes.
Of course.
In the meantime, though, there's interest in the private sector to be able to cover, areas that the federal government is too chicken to cover, and they like that because, for them, that's a potential revenue generator. Mm-hmm. But in order for the insurance companies to provide not only a financial viable quote, but a well-researched quote, they need data. And so that's one of the things that we hope to explore is, to be able to provide data to the underwriters so they can offer the farmers a quote or offer the purchasers a quote who are more than likely carry the insurance burden.
Now, Eric, are these 15 or so farmers, are they going to be part of the research project, or are they just kind of sitting in the wings waiting for you guys to say, okay, we've been doing our research, we have some data, now go ahead and start growing this, or are they going to be part of it?
They're part of the phytoremediation pilot program, which was established last year. So they'll be working under Senator Schwartz and Representative Fisher.
Okay.
And so that program is administered by them, and then they pick the committee, which then authorizes the research.
Now, is this kind of on a volunteer basis for them? If they're going to be growing this for research, they're doing it? What are they getting out of it is the question, I guess. And I don't mean it in a bad way. Are they going to be able to develop their own seed bank for when it's time to amp up production? Or is it just they're just doing this out of their own goodwill and faith in hemp itself?
Right now, nobody's getting paid for anything.
Right.
So they're just doing it as a test because they'll be light years ahead of farmers in other states.
Exactly, right.
Because they'll have some experience.
Yeah, they'll have experience. They'll have grown the crop for a few
Right.
cycles, and they'll understand.
And they can help consult for other farmers when they're wanting to incorporate it. And,
Mm-hmm.
are we consulting with countries like Canada, Europe, China, on what we're doing here in the phytoremediation project? Do we have consultants coming in and helping us get started? Or are we kind of, doing this on our own and just discovering it for ourselves?
Well, we don't have any technical assistance on the phytoremediation pilot project itself. We're doing it on our own. We do have some experts coming in from Canada in later on this month.
On the 21st.
Yeah, on the 21st, that are going to be speakers and talk about the hemp economy up there. But as far as the pilot project, we're running it ourselves.
Yeah, and they Canada's as well as we've been working a little bit with Vote Hemp and HIA. And they've been offering a lot of support and input into what we're doing here in Colorado, and they're actually going to be hosting a symposium on the 21st up in Loveland at the ranch. I believe that one has a $15 entry fee.
Yes, it does.
And the day before, we'll be having our hemp lobby day at the Capitol, and THC Magazine will be there.
Yes, we will.
Speaking about the market and paper aspects of hemp. And, we invite everyone to come. Of course, it's open to the public. And that morning, Andrea Herman from Canada will be speaking in front of the Joint Ag Committee, just kind of giving a presentation on the hemp economy in Canada.
Yeah, and she's one of the biggest names in hemp advocacy, isn't she? I mean, is she still president of HIA? I think she was at one point. I don't know if she still is.
I can't answer that.
I don't know if she's president.
But I know she's working to put together the class at Oregon State University on the first online course for hemp. We'll be reporting on that in our next issue of the magazine as well, where, my understanding of it is anybody is going to be able to take it online. Obviously, you get credits if you're an OSU student, but anybody, I'm going to have my staff take this class, obviously. But it's the first full college credit class on hemp history to agriculture to integration. I mean, it's going to be pretty involved with a lot of guest speakers on there. You never know, you might be invited.
Right, and we are working on a similar lecture for the class down at Aurora campus. The THC University will be having a segment on industrial hemp.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to talk more about that and after the break. And I also want us to talk about what can our listeners do to help move all of this forward. And I know you guys are two great people to talk to about this and what kind of volunteer work or advocacy they can be doing. So I want to get to that as soon as we come back from the break.
Drive around the Capitol and honk your horn.
There you go. Thanks again. You're listening to the Hemp Connoisseur Radio, and we'll be back in just a moment.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
All right, we are back with the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. We have Erik Hunter and Samantha Walsh here, two of the top advocates here in Colorado for hemp and getting everything moving forward here for us since 1099 and MEM 64. And I want to talk to you guys about, I mentioned this right before the break, what can our listeners do? What are you guys looking for right now besides just driving around the Capitol and honking their horn, which I like that as well.
Well, that was a job at what they did with the gun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're really effective. But what are you guys looking for? What do you need right now? Do you need people hitting the streets? Do you need them going canvassing, or is it more working on the lobbying side? Or so I'll let you answer that question before I keep asking.
We could use some donations on our website to help with travel expenses for one thing.
Money would help. Money always helps.
We do offer. Colorado Hemp Association does offer membership fees. So for whatever membership fee you want to pay, you get a really cool minted coin, a hemp grower certificate, and a hemp T-shirt.
And where do they go to get a part of that?
At ColoradoHempAssociation.com.
ColoradoHempAssociation.com.
And I believe HempCleans.com has a sister link as well.
And HempCleans.com.
HempCleans.com. And of course, yes, send us money. We need money. It's not you'd be surprised. You would think that the money would just be pouring in for an industry that does not exist
You would
in
think.
the United States, right?
It's like, how many new industries are there out there, really, that brand new industries? I mean, there's not that many. Everybody's been kind of cemented. That's one of the reasons why, I want to get involved in this, is I wanted to start a business, and I looked at the cannabis industry as a whole, hemp and marijuana, and said, well, what can I do to get involved in this? It's a new industry. People who get in the ground level are the ones going to make a real difference. And so anybody who volunteers or gives $10?
Oh yeah, $10 would be a great help, because we have website expenses, travel expenses. We've gone all over the state, and we're essentially doing this on a volunteer basis. But it would be nice if people would chip in and help us out.
Yeah, we've been going around the state doing a listening tour. So we've been going around to the rural areas of Colorado and talking about hemp, having people ask questions about hemp, and just trying to be an informational resource for people. I mean, we're not in this for the money. If we were in this for the money, we'd be funded heavily, I'm sure, by a big private donor.
No, I think
Monsanto.
all of us. Yeah, no, I think I think all of us are in this for the change.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, anybody who starts a business in an industry like this, I mean, you're looking at, I want to be at the ground level because I can make the most change, because if I was in it for the money, I would have done something else already, and it's like, and I obviously the same thing for you guys too. It's about what we can do with hemp or with the entire cannabis plant and the kind of differences it can make for everybody.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's different than the medical marijuana industry. That was pretty straightforward. It was grow some marijuana, set up a little shop. People come in, they buy tiny little nugs for $50, and that's how you make your money. But with this industry, we need processing equipment, and we need large-scale suppliers that could sell pellets to Home Depot for wood stoves. So there's much more uncertainty than there was with the medical marijuana. It's more spread out. And so that's probably one of the reasons why we haven't had an avalanche of cash come into the state for this. It's more of a grassroots effort than medical marijuana.
Obviously there was never a black market for hemp.
Right.
I mean, there's always been enough buyers and consumers of marijuana before the industry was legal. And I think that's the issue that we have in the hemp industry is we got to create the consumers. We got to create consumer demand for all these products. We got to get people out there, the construction companies. Well, sometimes you don't even have to create consumer demand. You just need the industries to create the demand.
I mean, at this point, the United States is the number one hemp consumer in the world. We consume 90% of the world's hemp.
Which is amazing.
And we're talking about an industry that grows at a rate of about 170% a year.
Wow.
To me, literally the biggest wall in the way is one. We haven't allowed. Been drinking long there?
Yeah.
We haven't allowed our innovators to get their hands on this and create the industry.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to import fabric in from China, sew a bag together and sell it. It's one thing to import some hemp seed, crush it up, put it in a protein bar and sell it. It's another thing to take the raw material yourself and be able to create or apply it into who knows what kind of products or what kind of research people are going to be able to do behind this. What kind of innovations they're going to be able to make in the home building industry,
it'll be
in
amazing.
Construction, in medicine,
Yeah.
in food. Who knows?
Well, you can look at the marijuana industry as a microcosm of what the hemp industry could become. In a way, you're right. It was easier because it's a mom and pop shop kind of thing. Hemp is not mom and pop shop, but at the same point, look at the innovation that's happened in the medical marijuana industry in just a few years of legality.
You compare it. If you compare what we do in the United States compared to what they do in Amsterdam, Amsterdam doesn't have the kind of edibles that we have here in the United States. They didn't have. People were taking. I hear anecdotally, people were taking like ridiculous amounts of hash over there in Amsterdam, a country that has had legalized marijuana for several.
Well, decriminalized.
Sorry.
No, but there is a difference.
But, that has had access to marijuana, and they just didn't do anything with it. And we're talking about American innovators who took something and were able to promulgate stuff that you haven't seen ever.
Well, the process of CBD harnessing in the plant. I mean, I'm not on the scene in Amsterdam, but I don't think it's been something done very big there because they were looking at, it's a tourist traffic and all these Americans and other Europeans want to come in and just get high. And so we're just going to give them what they want. And here we're like, no, it's medical. And when we made that, and I love the fact that we did the medical side first, because when we did the medical side first, we had to go, well, we're going to have to prove to everybody why it's medical. And then they started working on all of those things. That's why I hate the term recreational. I say it in every show. It should be called adult use.
Yeah, or social use.
Oh, Eric
Or
loves to use social use. Yeah,
I like that too. Social use is good too.
Spread the word. We call it social marijuana.
Yeah. Okay.
And we don't even call it marijuana anymore.
Yeah.
No. And it's funny because we'll call it cannabis, but cannabis encompasses marijuana and hemp.
Yes.
In Europe, that perfect example. You're holding a cannabis energy drink, and that causes confusion for people who are looking at that because like, am I going to get high from this? No, it has hemp in it. We're like, well, that's not cannabis.
Right.
No, it is. It's cannabis. That's cannabis came from the Latin word canvas, which was made from hemp. So if you want to talk, I mean, it really almost says that word came more for hemp, really.
Right.
In the 1800s, when it was still legal, there was called medical hemp. Which we now call medical marijuana, but it was called medical hemp and industrial hemp.
Right.
So it's interesting how that terminology's changed in the past century.
And you bring up a good point with the CBDs because if Dixie can sell a little bottle of dewdrops for $40, that has me really excited about hemp, which is primarily CBD and very little THC.
Yep. But it takes a lot of hemp plants to make that much CBD.
Oh, and that's what we want. We want a
do.
lot of hemp plants, and that could be something that is a byproduct of seed processing, for example.
All right, so we just need to get Dixie to give you guys a lot of money.
Yeah.
Trip, if you're listening, I know you want hemp to grow in Colorado, so you don't have to import it from Canada. Why don't you give these guys some cash? Yeah, I know he's grown his business. I just give Trip a hard time if he's listening. But that's a great point that you make, Eric. I mean, the Dixie X line is pretty revolutionary, what they're doing with that. There's always going to be critics of every company out there that's big and puts a target on them, and I know they're guilty of it, but I really applaud them for doing what they're doing and really spreading the word on hemp as a medicine, not just marijuana as a medicine. And I think
especially like homeopathic. I've been convincing my boyfriend to take a spoonful of hemp a day. Mm-hmm. And it's great. I use it on my hair to heal my split ends. I love it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. That wouldn't work on my split ends.
No.
I don't have that issue, really.
But, that's exactly the point, though, is that there's all these applications that are so outside the norms that I think maybe it's just my super awesome patriotism coming to the surface. But I just, you don't really hear about, and this is going to probably get me in a lot of trouble with Canadians, but you don't really hear Canadian captains of industry. It's always American captains of industry. And, we need to allow our innovators and our entrepreneurs and our capitalists access to this so they can create stuff and they can create an industry. And I personally see this as a great keystone in getting our economy back up.
I absolutely agree. And that was why we made a big point of it in our July issue cover. I don't know if you saw it, but we had this farmer's hands holding a dollar bill that looked like a hemp leaf.
Yep,
and
I love that one. That's one of my favorite covers.
Hemp, America's financial freedom. And everyone was like, what are you talking about with that? And everyone, of course, immediately thought we were talking about marijuana. Not everybody, but a lot of people did. And I was like, no, you have no concept of this. But one of the things I noticed when I talk to people about hemp, and please tell me if you guys have this issue as well. When you start talking about it, obviously we're all so passionate and excited about it, and we start telling them all the reasons why hemp should be legal and all the things it does. And after a while, there's just this glaze that comes over their eyes, like it does that, and then they're just like, there's too much information. So I've learned that I have to start paring it down and finding out what are you most interested in, and let me tell you how hemp can be part of that. Because it will be. There's something that it will integrate into anybody's lives.
I've come across. I mean, obviously, my work at the Capitol, my biggest issue has been education, which is why I've decided to create this Hemp Lobby Day. It's going to be the first one ever in Colorado. It's going to be awesome.
Please tell us the Hemp Lobby Day again.
It's on March 20th.
March 20th.
And it'll probably start at 10 a.m. till 3 p.m.
Okay.
And, this is an opportunity. I'm going to have representatives from each industry. Evo Hemp's going to be there talking about food.
Awesome.
Hemp Hoodlamp's going to be there talking about clothing. Envirotextile's going to be there talking about fabric. THC Magazine's going to be there talking about marketing and talking about paper. I'm trying not to leave anyone out. I think Vote Hemp and HIA are going to be there talking about advocacy and legislation on a national level. there's more. Oh yeah, J&R Carpentry is going to be there talking about hemp concrete, and I'm going to have Bill Atwater there talking about biofuel.
Yeah, that was a cool talk.
That
we
was
had
the
this past
biofuel,
Sunday.
yeah, right. And so, and that's another aspect. Again, right now it's so limited the research ability that people have for this because it's so expensive to import.
Yep.
And if it was cheaper for them to get their hands on, who knows what kind of energy aspects
Well,
we
right
have
right
behind this.
now, I mean, when I talked to Bill, he said it's about $40 a gallon to produce the hemp biodiesel. But that's because he's doing the getting the seeds, crushing them. They're developing it for one person.
Yes.
But when we talk about if we subsidize it for the entire country, I've heard different numbers being thrown around, but most people are saying somewhere around $1 per gallon if we really did it fully. If we were so devoted to it, and I don't know if those are the numbers you guys have heard, but that's what some people have thrown to me, which is still amazing to me because it hasn't been gas hasn't been $1 per gallon since 1980.
Well, conventionally grown hemp seed is $1 a pound, and that translates to about $16 per gallon for the lowest grade of hemp seed oil, which goes all the way up to $50 a gallon for the premium organic hemp seed oil. So we were talking about a big economy of scale to try and get it down to where it's $1 a gallon.
Right.
I don't know if that's really doable.
It doesn't seem like it's that viable. I mean, we did it. We put it on our cover about the hemp biodiesel because we were excited about the possibility of it, and through more and more research, we're looking. You're right. It doesn't seem viable right now because honestly, if I'm a farmer, why would I grow it for fuel when I can make way more money on it? And actually have more buyers if I use it as a food source, and that's why Canada's doing what they're doing.
Correct, and that's really the highest and best use for that product. We'd be better off working on hydrogen cars or something that eliminates the need for an oily fuel, which incidentally, I have a lot of experience making biodiesel, and I've run about 50,000 miles on 3 different cars, and you do get more nitrogen oxides from biodiesel, although you get less sulfur and particulate matter. So it's in a way it's lower polluting fuel, but keeping the nitrogen oxide problem really in mind, electric cars are really the way to go.
Yeah, electric cars powered by solar batteries or something.
Yeah, or fuel cells or something.
Fuel cells, something that does it, that because that's one of the issues too. Is you have an electric car, you plug it in, but now your house is actually more of a fuel waster than anything else, and it causes more pollution really than a car does. So it's like, well, it's got to be solar energy powering the electric car. So that'll be another conversation someday down the line.
Plug themselves.
What's that? Plug themselves?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course.
Plug
have them
ourselves?
plug themselves.
Oh.
Chris is looking at me like you're already running over time, dude.
Oh, that's all right.
All right. So, Eric, please let people know again what you do, how to get in hold of you, and how to help volunteer or send money to you guys. And then let's just talk about the quick events that they can check out and be part of for soon. And then we'll ask Samantha to do the same.
Okay, so I'm Director of Research and Development at hempcleans.com. And if you just go to that website, then there is a PayPal button. And also Colorado Hemp Association has a membership. And so we are looking for farmers who are interested in growing this crop. And that's really all I have.
All right. Now, you guys are nonprofits.
Yes.
That's right.
So they can deduct taxes, get a tax break for sending money to you guys, right?
Yes.
Yes.
See, so, it's all in your best interest to give some money to these guys. Now, Samantha, please reiterate again for yourself what you're working with.
My name's Samantha Walsh, Walsh. You can reach me at Walsh, Walsh at hempcleans.com. I'm the political director for Hemp Cleans and as well as the lobbyist for Colorado Hemp Association. And I would say that the way people could help out is once we get this bill introduced to, go through the same process, lobby your representatives. If you need a how-to sheet, we're going to have that up online. Right now, federally speaking, I just want to get this in real quick. Jared Polis is co-sponsoring the Industrial Farming Act in Congress. There's also one in the Senate that's being led, I believe, with Mitch McConnell and
Rand Paul.
Rand Paul, whose political acumen has just skyrocketed because of his fun little filibuster last night.
Yes.
And I think that we have the political momentum now on a national level like we've never seen before, and especially these days with the advent of social media. Please, lobby your congressman. So if you're locally, I can tell you exactly who to call. Diana DeGette has already sponsored something similar the year before, but we really need to get hemp change on a federal level. But in the meantime, we're going to do this in Colorado. So, that would be my guess. There's a petition on the White House petition site. I can't think of the web address at the moment, but those fun little petitions that you can sign on the White House's website.
MoveOn.org have one, or is it?
I don't think MoveOn.org has one. It's just the We the People, We the People petitions.
Yep.
Mike Bowman started it, and it's to get a response from Erik Hunter and the Obama administration about hemp, and we've yet to see an answer.
He said Erik Hunter did say he was going to be coming out with a statement. In the
they've
next
been saying
few days.
that for 3 months.
Yeah. He's like the biggest procrastinator in the world when it comes
my
to
guess is,
our industry.
I think the reason they're not, and this is just my political guess, is the reason they're not coming out is because they don't want to do anything about it.
No.
I think they would rather just kind of hem and haw, let the states proceed.
Yep.
And if they see that those states are proceeding in a reasoned and measured manner, like in Colorado, like how we've proven that we could do it with medical marijuana, if we can do this again with social marijuana, and if we could do this with hemp, I think they might just leave us alone if we don't go, hog wild like they did in California or Montana or any of those other states. I don't think we have to worry.
I hope so, because there was just a statement, a joint statement put out by 9 ex-DEA agents, either that were head or whatever, trying to say, no, you have to make a statement saying you're going after this.
And that's just on marijuana, and yet not one word in that address industrial hemp, not one word.
Yep.
Right.
Well, that's because they clump them together.
And you did see how several of them had business interests in keeping marijuana prohibition alive. One of them had a tobacco pharmaceutical company where they were getting pharmaceuticals from the tobacco plant. So, of course, cannabis would be a direct competitor to that, just like it always has with the Partnership for Drug-Free America, which was funded by the tobacco lobby. And another one of the heads has a drug testing policy company that consults with businesses on how to drug test employees and then make them suffer if they get caught with positive.
Follow the money.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm sick of being dictated by old white men.
I'm with you on that, though. I absolutely agree. Even though I'm getting to become an old white man myself.
Screw the man, as Eric loves to say.
Screw the man.
Favorite thing
All
about
right.
yeah.
Well, on that note, I think we can definitely call it a day. Samantha Walsh, Erik Hunter, thank you so much for the work you guys do.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I definitely look forward to having you guys back on and checking in with you to see where we've progressed since today. Please make sure everybody checks out the Hemp Lobby Day on March 20th.
March 20th. And the HIA Symposium, March 21st.
Yeah, in Loveland. It's a beautiful trip. You're going to Loveland. It's March 21st. It's only $15.
Only $15.
To be a part of a movement that is going to be huge if we have our say in it. And I think it's an exciting time to be involved in the hemp industry. Everybody was excited about the marijuana industry. Now all of you guys start moving over to the hemp bandwagon and join up with us. So thanks for listening to the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. We'll be back next week. I believe we're going to have Adam and CC Dunn from Hoodlam on again to keep up to date with what they've been working on. They do a...
Hands on Hemp.
Hands on Hemp, the first Sunday
of every month.
The last one we talked about biodiesel, which was really cool, and it's very informative.
The next one's going to be on food.
Awesome. But definitely check out ColoradoHempAssociation.com, HempCleans.com, and put in your time, or if you can't put in your time, throw some money at these guys. They need it, and they deserve it. Thanks for listening to Hemp Connoisseur Radio. Peace, love, and hempiness.